All good things must come to an end, and as we say goodbye to the high-speed antics of Boom Boomger, we have finally been graced with the very much anticipated debut of number 1 Sentai, Gozyuger. While Gozyuger introduces to us a new and distinguishable style, as Sentai always does, it also reintroduces a concept that we are all very familiar with, animals. Our new team of colorful heroes don powers inspired by the mighty creatures of the animal kingdom, but not entirely in the way that you'd expect. When the team lineup for Gozyuger was first teased, I'm sure I wasn't the only one who was surprised to see the animals that were chosen to be represented on this team. Each animal definitely has varying levels of representation across the franchise, and that's kind of what I want to take a look at today. Since the goal of each Gozyuger is to be number 1, I wanted to take a look at each of the Gozyuger's animals and see how Sentai has represented them in the past and see how they stack up in comparison. So let's engage and get to it. Now, I know that I said the Gozyuger animal lineup was surprising, and I'll update that sentiment to say that it's rather unique. Most animal teams we have in Sentai follow a sort of relevant line of logic. You usually have your Wildcat Ranger, your Bird Ranger, your Big Animal Ranger, your Aquatic Ranger, and that mostly covers all your bases, save for some other unique choices here and there. Not only does Gozyuger break convention with their lineup, they also include animals that I guess I would be hesitant to call animals anyways, the T-Rex and the Unicorn. The T-Rex would most likely be in a dinosaur-specific season, and the Unicorn, well, there really hasn't been any other Unicorn Ranger, but I would expect them to be in a team with other mythical creatures. Gozyuger rounds up this ragtag team of beasts and puts them all under the same roof. And while you probably wouldn't think them to mesh that well together, it seems to work, especially due to the fact that the animal concept may not have as deep of a thematic relevance in comparison to the Tegosaurs and the story behind them. But in any case, with their powers derived from their chosen creatures, their suits fuse their season's unique concept with these animalistic designs. And I do think that the Gozyuger designs do a good job of representing their respective animals. Most, if not all of this is seen in their helmets, and they follow a style that we talked about before in my helmets video. They all follow the typical design trait of having the animal eyes above the visor, so as to have the animal face be represented along the ranger face as well. What they do slightly differently, however, is the execution of the animal mouth. Oftentimes, we will see the helmet's visor act as the animal's mouth, so the visors themselves may be shaped with teeth or something similar. In Gozyuger's case, their mouth plates act as the animal mouths themselves, with the upper and lower borders of Wolf, Leon, and Tyranno showcasing their animalistic fangs, with Eagle and Unicorn showing more of the mouth and beak silhouette, since those open mouth visuals aren't as distinct. And bringing attention back to the eyes, that's where a lot of the unique designs take place. With Wolf, the ears are the most prominent part as it is a pretty distinctive trait of the wolf silhouette. For Leon, it of course is the lion's mane, represented both by the gold and blue parts of his helmet. Tyranno's shape is more of a stout and angular one, as the T-Rex head doesn't have much of an outwardly distinctive feature. Eagle has these feather-like shapes at the eyes, and Unicorn has the horse ears and, of course, the horn. These helmets take advantage of the gold plating and lining of their helmets to add effective embellishments to properly depict the animals they represent. So now we know how each Gozyuger shows off their animal pride. Now, how do they stack up to others in their lineage that have shared the same animal spirits? In this next part, I want to take a look at the other rangers who our Gozyugers have shared animals with and see how they all take on the challenge of embracing their ferocious side through their styles. And since they're all about being number 1, let's do this in a bit of a tournament style. I'm going to take each group of animal rangers and pit them in a bracket against each other to see who comes out on top. They of course will be competing in how well their design embodies their animal concept in comparison to the rest. Since most of the design traits lie mostly if not entirely within the helmets, this will be a bit of a combination of my Sentai helmets and Sentai animals videos, just with a bit more of a focus. And of course this will all be subjective to my own taste, let me know if you think these could go any other way. But without further ado, let's generate these brackets and start with the Howling Boys. In the Wolf Tournament we have 4 participants, Goju Wolf, Geki Violet, Okami Blue, and Gao Silver. Our first match is Geki Violet versus Goju Wolf, and this one is already quite difficult. I'm pretty sure I've made it abundantly clear that I absolutely adore Geki Violet. He has just such a clean design, and I love how the wolf concept is executed through his helmet. It's a pretty classic looking helmet, with the white accents really helping to define the wolf shape. The difficult part is that I do really like Goju Wolf as well. I think it's a really smart reinterpretation of the wolf style. What I do have to bring up is that what makes Geki Violet more like a wolf are the side accents that detail his fur. I'm sure it's because Gojuger visors extend all around the head, so making those side fur parts wouldn't have been easy, but without it, Goju Wolf ends up looking a bit more similar to a fox, pretty comparable to Kamen Rider Geats. So while I do appreciate our newcomer, I gotta hand it to the Muay Thai man himself. Next up is the battle between Okami Blue and Gao Silver. Now this one is an interesting matchup. On one hand, we have the first Wolf Ranger with Gao Silver, who has a really traditional execution of his animal theme. On the other hand, we have Okami Blue, who is part of a truly experimental season when it comes to design traits and characteristics, especially with the helmets. This is harder than I anticipated. I love how classic Gozyuger's helmet is, but I also just love how wild Okami Blue's is. It actually maintains the shape you'd expect from the wolf if you were to look at it from the front view, but the wolf shape in the visor is actually the side profile. It's really smart, but I guess if I'm being fair, Gozyuger is going to have to take this one for being an objectively fantastic wolf. I'm giving you kudos still, Okami Blue. The final matchup is Geki Violet versus Gozyuger, and well, it ends up being easy here with the winner being Geki Violet. In comparison, Geki Violet's helmet gives off more of a cool and fierce vibe with its angles and accents. Gozyuger is the father of the wolf concepts, but Geki Violet, in my opinion, does it the best. Next up is the Lion Tournament. Wow, we actually have a lot of contenders here, and for good reason. The lion is the king of the animal world, so it's no surprise that it'd be represented so much. Our contestants here are Goju Leon, Yellow Lion, Shishi Ranger, Ginga Red, Gao Red, Hurricane Yellow, Gohan Blue, Juo Lion, and Shishi Red. Our first round is Goju Leon versus Shishi Red, and I suspect this is going to happen for every Q Ranger matchup, because while these are cosmically clever, if we're looking for the strength of the animal representations, most other designs are probably going to reign supreme, so I'm sorry Lucky, Leon is taking this one. After this is Ginga Red versus Yellow Lion, and this is pretty easy for me too actually. Yellow Lion is a fantastic and classic Lion Ranger, being the first of the franchise. Ginga Red's interpretation of the lion is a bit odd to be honest, with the minimal lines atop his head to the interestingly geometric visor that sort of acts as a mouth. So I gotta give it to the father of the lions himself. No, not Mufasa, Yellow Lion. Now, we move on to Hurricane Yellow versus Goju Leon, and well, Hurricane's helmet designs really are more focused more so on the ninja aspect anyways, right? Especially for the headgear, the ninja crown piece is very important to the visual stylization. So it's no surprise that the line detailing comes into play very minimally here, so Leon takes it again. Doing well, newbie. Up next is Shishi Ranger versus Juo Lion. Now, admittedly, this may be a bit of an unfair pairing, as Shishi Ranger is really meant to be more based on the mythical Shishi Lion than a traditional lion. So, with Juo Lion being very explicitly based on the lion we're familiar with, he is kind of the clear-cut winner. While I do enjoy Shishi Ranger's design overall, Juo Lion is just the more lion one, especially with that mane. You let me know if this feels unfair, I hope it doesn't. The next round, we've got Gao Red versus Gosei Knight. Now, I hope I don't sound too incredibly sacrilegious for this one, because I think Gao Red's line design is super solid and is forever a classic to me when it comes to Animal Rangers and even Red Rangers, but Gosei Knight's is actually so cool. The gold designs on his side really do give off the image of the lion's mane, but it doesn't even stop there because those gold parts are actually in the shape of the side profile of a lion roaring. It's incredibly dynamic, and it actually takes the win for me here. And finishing up this round, we have Yellow Lion versus Gohan Blue. And, well, the Gozyugers were focused very much on the animal machine hybrid. Gohan Blue's lion detailing ends up being more subtle, with the yellow lining meant to be in the image of the lion's mane. So, I'm giving it to Yellow Lion once again. Kicking off our semifinal for the Lions is Goju Leon versus Juo Lion, and well, both of these are pretty darn good lions. Juoju overall had some charmingly simplistic designs that are blended well with the overall styles. However, one may argue that it was a bit too simple though, especially for Juo Lion, and while I am a fan of that charm, Goju Leon takes this one for me. I think Leon's gold bits really accentuate the ferocity of a lion in a way that I don't really see on Juo Lion. So the newbie takes it once more. Can he take it to the top? Because up next is Gosei Knight versus Yellow Lion, and this one is another case of a classic interpretation pit against a modern and more experimental one. For my money, I gotta give it to Gosei Knight, who has done a great job of evolving on this concept. Good job holding out there though, Yellow Lion. And in our final round, we have Goju Leon versus Gosei Knight. Two very different interpretations of the lion concept in their own distinctive ways, both of which use gold layering to provide the lion shaping on their helmets in very different ways. This one is kind of hard, but I think I'll give it to our newcomer, Goju Leon. I think the simplicity really plays a key role here. Leon's design is more simply done and therefore more effective. Gosei Knight has a lot going on, which I adore, but I think the knight aspect comes out a bit more when comparing these two. This was a tough and long tournament, but I'm glad at least one Gozyuger has reached number 1 so far. Making their Jurassic entrance are our T-Rex combatants for the T-Rex tournament. Now, we don't have a lot of contenders here, but it's kind of easy to see that one of these is not like the other. Tyrannos have mainly been delegated to Red Rangers, as they are the monarchs of the dinosaur world and basically the default vision for the word dinosaur, so of course they'd be treated as the face of the franchise. That being said, Goju Tyranno as our first yellow T-Rex is facing up against a legacy of red T-Rexes that have been given the utmost attention and care, so we'll see how he stacks up. Kicking things off for round 1 are Kyoryu Red and Ryosou Red. Now this is tough. Both of these designs are really good. Kyoryuger takes the dino concept on a new spin, with the open mouth acting as a full visor face. Ryusoldier blends in the knight concept to make the visor a knight's helmet with a really smart teeth visual. I'm doing a lot of internal tug of war here, but if I had to land on a solid T-Rex, it's gotta be Kyoryu Red, sort of for the same reason I had for Gosei Knight in his final round. After this, we have Goju Tyranno versus Tyranno Ranger, and this one is another epic clash. We are looking at the father of the concept versus the newest iteration. Tyranno Ranger is a classic on both the Sentai and Power Ranger sides, and while I respect the OG and admire the characteristics of the classics, I kinda gotta tip my hat to Goju Tyranno for this one. It's a really good evolution of the concept and feels more ferocious and true to its dinosaur nature. And now closing up the semifinal, we have Aba Red versus Kyoryu Red, and I think I gotta give it to Kyoryu Red again. I adore Aba Red's design, and Aba Ranger overall for being so simple and sleek, but I think it straddles the line of being a bit too simple, while Kyoryu Red is very impactful with its overall T-Rex image. And our final round is Kyoryu Red versus Goju Tyranno. Both of these guys are in the latter years of Dino Sentai interpretation, so both have evolved on this concept quite a bit. And well, I think for this one, Kyoryu Red takes it for me again. Kyoryu Red is a really solid design, balancing a simple, straightforward concept with some clever design work. Our newbie did a great job making it this far, but I gotta give it to the king. Our final tournament with the same number of contenders is the Eagle Tournament with Goju Eagle, Vol Eagle, Gao Yellow, Duo Eagle, and Washi Pink. Now, you may be wondering why you don't see a lot of other bird warriors here, and that's because I've chosen only the rangers who have specifically been based on eagles. No hawks, no condors, specifically eagles. So let's get this off to a flying start. Our first round is Washi Pink versus Duo Eagle, and well, we know the drill by now. Washi Pink's design is great for the Q Ranger concept, but Duo Eagle has always been a really solid eagle to me. It really is one of my favorite designs overall, so it taking the dub for me is a bit of a no-brainer. Next we have Gao Yellow versus Vol Eagle, and this one I have to give to Gao Yellow. Vol Eagle's design is a really classic Sentai design, with the eagle aspect only being a small part of it really, kind of like a hood ornament. To me, Gao Yellow has always been a standard eagle, let alone bird, design, so it takes this one easily. Finishing up our semifinal is Goju Eagle versus Duo Eagle, and you know, this one is kind of funny. I feel like Duo Eagle was the first bird to not put the beak above the visor and instead have it as the mouth, just like how Goju Eagle is doing it now. And while Goju Eagle is very cool and stylistic, I gotta give it to Duo Eagle. It may be the feathered tufts to the side of Goju Eagle's face that make it look less of an eagle to me, but I mean, these two do both do the job very similarly, with Duo Eagle doing it just a bit better in my opinion. Our final round is Duo Eagle versus Gao Yellow, two very solid interpretations of the sky soaring eagle. This one is a bit hard because I think they're both very, very good. Something I might have talked about before, however, is the way Gao Ranger does its animal eyes. For some reason, my attention is drawn immediately to the animal eyes, which makes me think of those as the Ranger eyes as well. It kind of warps my view of what the Gao Ranger helmet looks like, especially its visor. On the other hand, Duo Eagle feels like it blends those elements together much better, perhaps by being more simple in its execution. Simple and dynamic, and that's why I have to give it to Duo Eagle for this one. And I guess let's have a tournament of unicorns real quick and crown Goju Unicorn as being number 1 in her category. Congrats! Here are the winners of our 5 tournaments. Ultimately, 2 of the Gozyugers came out on top for me, with one of them triumphing among many and the other playing in an arena of their own. Again, these are in my opinion the best of the rangers that represent these specific animals. What do you think? Do these come out on top for you as well? Or do any of the other rangers do a bit better in your opinion? Let me know. That's all I have for today. As always, I'll be back next time with more fun Toku topics to Toku talk about. See you all next time.